Welcome back to Punch Club, everybody. Today's episode is all about changing your tempo and ways that it can improve your abilities inside the ring. Stick around after the intro and I'm going to give you 3 reasons why. So what do I mean by changing your tempo? By definition, tempo is a passage of music and the speed at which that passage is played, or otherwise known as beats per minute. It is important to understand that I am not talking about tempo in terms of the pace of the fight, but rather the pace of your combinations or the output of your punches. Reason number 1 for that, energy conservation. Does every one of our shots need to be 100% power and 100% speed? No, that's unreasonable. We can train to build that gas tank and we can have the best strength and conditioning program out there, but at the end of the day, we're all human. We all have our limitations. We gotta keep in mind that we're not always throwing punches to land them. Sometimes we're using them as deceptive actions. Sometimes we're using our feints. Maybe we're putting our hand out there to get control, block vision, yada yada yada. There's a lot of other things we can do with our hands other than just try to damage our opponent. So in turn, by changing up your tempo, it opens up doors and opportunities that allows you to conserve energy until the moment is needed, that you really rip into that shot when you really turn up the speed. Maybe we want to push our opponent back into the corner so that we can get them controlled in a spot that when we throw those power punches, they don't have anywhere to move out of the way. They have to sit there and contend with them. And instead of wasting our energy on a shot that we might miss, maybe we throw some light shots to back them up, to gain that insurance, to push them back and control the ring. And then once we get them into that corner, then we turn it up. Then we can sit into our punches. Then we can go a little bit more speed and a little bit more power. Because the ball is in our court. We have the favored position. And we know that by doing this, by depleting this gas tank, it can really increase our chances of winning that match. Even when we have the opponent in the corner, if we're going 100% the whole time we're throwing shots in that corner, now it comes down to our conditioning versus their guard. It might show heart, but you're not using this. We can set up light shots and keep them occupied because they don't want to get hit anyways and they're trying to defend it. So we can throw shots that maybe puts them in a high guard or opens up a certain position that we want to hit. A big one that comes to mind is I'm just occupying them upstairs until I can really sit in and rip into something on their body. And this is huge for counter fighters. We can't be throwing every shot 100%, especially when we're trying to draw something out of them. When we get that draw, when we finally get them to bite, then we want to react hard and fast. That point leads me directly into point number 2, deceptive tactics. If you're a fan of the channel, if you've been here for a while, then you know how much I hanker on this deceptive actions, how well feints can help you, and how different positioning, showing different looks, can really get into the mindset of your opponent. At the end of the day, everybody has their attributes that makes them stand out in their own way. Maybe you have a powerhouse slugger that just has natural power. Maybe you have a guy that has that triathlon level of endurance. Maybe you have a guy that has really long reach that can really use that to his advantage and learns how to use that to his advantage. Now when we come against these guys that have these attributes, what can we do? The guys that are a little bit smaller, maybe the guys a little bit shorter, that just don't have that natural ability. We can still win. How? We use our head. We need to be leveling the playing field by using the tactics and options that we get from studying film, from drilling and practice, from just sparring. These things that we see that work and don't work, and we can make them more effective by drilling them constantly. So to bring this all around, I'm going to call this deceptive action, or this deceptive tactic, deceptive tempo. We can throw shots at our opponent that aren't meant to cause maximum damage. Maybe we get them really used to that 1-1-2 coming in, that jab cross, and get them used to it at a tempo that they like, that they can respond to, and they can catch and roll, or they can slip, whatever they want to do to defend those punches. Then when you know they're comfortable with it, I want you to change up the tempo. In this scenario where we're talking about the 1-1-2, I would advise turning up the tempo, going from a 6 out of 10 speed to a 10 out of 10 speed out of nowhere. Because even though they know that shot's coming, even though they're anticipating it, they're not going to anticipate that change in speed, and that can allow you to overcome your opponent. This can also be slowed down to be effective. Maybe you're throwing that 1-2-3 to the point that they really like it, they can really catch on to you and they can catch it, and then you throw that 1-2 and you slow it down and let that 3 land just a second after, so that when they're going through their process of block, roll, whatever, when they come back, that shot's landing a second after what they thought it was, and maybe at that point they let their guard down in the hustle and bustle of that big breakout. Guys, tempo control shows experience. Being able to control your speed, being able to control your power, being able to turn it up and turn it down within a second, all comes from experience, from hitting the bag, from focusing on these areas. A good option for this is a drill that I don't know where it came from, but my coach does it. I really enjoy it. It's a 1 out of 10 drill. And maybe we'll give our guys a couple combinations, 1, 2, or 3 to go off of. And then when they're throwing those training partners are calling out a speed that they want them at. So maybe they're throwing that 1, 2, 3, and they just call out a 3 speed. Then they know it's a 3 out of 10 speed. But if I call a 10 out of 10 speed, then that better be fast and it better be vicious. And changing that up and down over time allows you to really feel control over what your tempo is, what your pace is. And an added benefit of this is it helps when you have guys sparring, when you're light sparring, when you're tech sparring, when you're hard sparring. Understanding how to control your speed and your power keeps people safe. This is one of the reasons that new guys that walk into the gym, new green boxers, don't get to spar for a while because they just don't truly understand their strength, their power, their speed, and they don't know how to control it. So let's bring this whole thing back around. Holy shit, took us a while to get here. Controlling your tempo, controlling the pace of your tempo can act as deceptive actions, and this can allow you to get the upper hand on your opponent. My final point I want to hit here, it directly pigtails off of point number 2, is that changing your tempo breaks patterns. Unintentional patterns in boxing can get you hurt. They can get you caught. If your opponent starts to see something that you do consistently, repetitively, maybe it's a weakness, maybe it's something that you think is a strength, but they know a way of exploiting it, then they're going to do so. Especially as you move up the ranks through boxing, as you start going against guys that have more and more training, you're going to see these skill levels and these platforms go up. The same way that you're thinking about what you're putting out towards your opponent, they need to be thinking about what's coming at them, and vice versa. We can't always be in this one-dimensional thinking where we're only thinking about what we're doing to the opponent. We need to think about how they're reacting and what they're trying to get us to do. Again, this comes back to our counter fighters, our counter punchers that really want to read their opponent, really want to draw them in, and then let out some vicious combo that is just beautiful. I mean, I'm not a very good counter puncher, I'm going to be completely honest, but I think it is one of the sexiest forms of fighting. It's nice to see someone so smooth and so slick, catching punches, rolling punches, all to get their opponent to do one thing, to land one massive shot. That over time of fighting these counter fighters, you're not even going to want to come in anymore. You're going to get to the point where you're like, every time I step in to throw something, I get hit with something, and that's really starting to suck. A good boxer is going to recognize patterns, and they're going to take advantage of them. So the point here is that when your opponent finally thinks they got it, they're like, I see what he's throwing out there. I get it now. I'm going to react off of it. You change the tempo mid-combination, turning it up, turning it down, whatever. It throws off their timing, throws off their tempo, and allows you to get that shot in. There's a lot of shots that you can set up off of knowing how to control your tempo then. There's a lot of actions and progressions that you can set up. Going from having every shot being bop, 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 to being able to control it to be bop, 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 or bop, bop, bop. I hope you guys are understanding because I'm not trying to play patty cake here. I'm trying to demonstrate something. That tempo changes the cadence of your punches. That makes you unpredictable. So guys, those are my 3 points: energy conservation, deceptive tempo or tactics, and eliminating timing patterns. Are there more reasons to change up your tempo? Absolutely. I have recorded this video like 2 or 3 times now, and each time I'm doing it I start going off on tangents on how you can use this changing of tempo more and more and more. So there's so much more that you guys can do with this. I'm just covering the first 3 that came to mind, the most effective 3 that came to mind. If this is something you guys want me to jump into a little bit more, discuss a little bit more, and maybe flesh it out a little bit more, let me know down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you guys and know what you guys want to learn, what you want to see. Because at the end of the day, I really enjoy the mindset that goes into boxing. I really like the intellectual part of boxing just as much as I like the physical part. When you put that together, man, you just get something beautiful, and that is boxing. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video, if it helped you out, if you learned anything from it. It would surely help the channel, and I would be greatly appreciative of it. As always, thanks for tuning in to Punch Club.